name is Carrera-Gomez, and this is my presentation for public policy. Today I chose the Equal Pay Act of 1963. This act was signed in 1963 into law by John F. Kennedy. It was meant to eliminate wage disparity based on gender. Even today, this act is seen as one of the most important acts in regards to the gender pay gap. This act is very important because before the act, it wasn't a legal requirement to have to pay equally amongst the genders. Although the law didn't eliminate the wage gap entirely, it was a crucial step in advancing women's rights in the workforce. It raised public awareness about gender inequality, encouraged employers to review their compensation practices, and provided women with a legal tool to challenge discriminatory pay. In this chart, it begins in 1961 and it goes up until 2016, which is a 55-year difference. It shows the gap between men and women in their pay. In 55 years, there was a decrease in the gap of 40%. Unfortunately, up until just 8 years ago, there was still a 20% gap difference. Even though the gap shouldn't exist, thankfully we're slowly getting to where we should be. Unfortunately, no policy is perfect, but these are 3 methods in which the policy can improve. Strengthening enforcement mechanisms will lead to higher consequences amongst employers that violate the wage gap laws. Addressing intersectional wage gaps can help look into other things that factor, such as race, gender, and age. Extending the statute of limitations for filing claims can help employees and give them a longer time period to file claims against employers for discrimination amongst the workplace. In this slide, there are 4 policies that are very similar to the EPA, but these tackle the gender wage gap differently. The pay transparency legislation is meant to focus on positive transparency rather than just lawsuits. This leads to employers getting paid stuff for their work and not just their gender. The second being the comparable worth policy. This includes more jobs in similar fields but that are not exactly the same, so that they can get paid for different types of work yet still be balanced. The third being the mandatory pay audits. This forces employers to more commonly look amongst any discrimination going on in the workplace. Lastly, the living wage policies. This policy helps reduce gender wage disparities, especially for women in lower wage occupations. In this slide, I've included 6 of my sources, even though I did use more. On the slide in which I showed the chart, there is another source named. In conclusion, I chose this act because I think it's something very important that affects many women on their day-to-day lives. Gender should have nothing to do with how you get paid. Thank you for viewing my presentation, and I hope you learned something. I hope it was very informative and that you've developed a different perspective on this topic.